this is our story about our son, Landon.
So we had Landon in May of 2014. We found out we were pregnant in mid 2013, and we decided to find out he was a boy. And shortly before his due date, we had a C-section with our oldest daughter, Elise, and we were eagerly waiting for his arrival. And just a few days before his due date, we found out that he didn't have a heartbeat.
And throughout my pregnancy, starting at 28 weeks, I was having weekly ultrasounds. I was diagnosed with high blood pressure. And so they, at 28 weeks, start doing weekly biophysical ultrasounds. And then every third week, they do a growth ultrasound. And so they were, monitoring him to make sure that everything was okay, because with high blood pressure, you can have issues with your blood not transferring to the baby. And so they were just, being cautious and monitoring things to make sure he was all right. And with every ultrasound at the end, they're like, oh, everything looks great. We'll see you next week. But 38 weeks, it wasn't great. I remember walking into my appointment and telling the lady that was going to do the ultrasound, he must be sleeping because I haven't felt him this morning. So she was looking for a heartbeat and couldn't find anything.
So Carrie called me at work, and we had to deal with the news that morning I had just put his car seat in the car because we thought it was a done deal. And when I say done deal, we were ready to welcome him home. We'd never experienced anybody who had lost a child or had lost a pregnancy. So when you're expecting a child and you're that far along, I think you just take for granted, society takes for granted that they'll be here with you. And we had to go home. The doctor sent us home. She didn't know how this had happened, and which was also difficult. We just wanted to deliver our baby right away and see him, but we went home. And the next morning, we delivered him via C-section. He was healthy, or not healthy, but he was 8 pounds,
Just under, yeah.
10 fingers, 10 toes, and we found out that what had taken him from us was a knot in his umbilical cord. And so from then on, we always bring lollipops with us. Our daughter, Elise, had called him Lollipop through the whole pregnancy. She always wanted to meet Lollipop. She couldn't wait to meet Lollipop. So his nickname was Lollipop. And when we had his funeral a few days after his delivery, we gave everybody lollipops at the funeral. And to this day, whether we have Christmas cards, pictures, I guess the lollipop is what we have to symbolize him, that we always take with us. So life moved on. We went back to work. We had to deal with an empty baby room. All of his things were still there. We didn't touch them. But I don't know if Carrie wants to go on here, but we soon found out 5 months after losing him that we were pregnant again. I think there was this urge to want to fill that room and to want to keep growing our family. We thought maybe we should have waited longer, but we decided we had a right to keep growing our family. We wanted to do that. And having gone through a loss and a tragedy like that, finding out you're pregnant again has a world of emotions. You're worried that it's going to repeat itself. You're worried about finding a doctor and a team that's going to get you through that next pregnancy. And it was difficult. We interviewed 6 different doctors before we found one that would look at our baby's umbilical cord throughout the pregnancy. And that was very hard to deal with. Several doctors told us that they didn't want to look at the umbilical cord because they didn't want to be put in a position to deliver an early baby if they found something. And so that was hard. It was hard on both of us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And having a subsequent pregnancy after loss, for me, it was very difficult. to come to terms, why does this child get the care that my other child should have had? Always wondering, what if things would have been different? Would he still be here? I still, to this day, wish that things would have been different. I remember having a conversation with my OB in regards to the care that I would receive with Landon, the son that we lost. And we were talking about the weekly ultrasounds, and she said that studies have shown that we used to do NST, so non-stress tests, with the ultrasounds. And they chose not to do them because studies have shown there is no benefit. And I wish that, I would have asked her, show me the studies. What studies are there that you can tell me that if there is a baby that's in distress, they won't be picked up with the NSTs any better than what you would get with the biophysical. What things could have been different is my regret. And so with our subsequent pregnancy, I demanded NSTs and ultrasounds, and we ended up having 2 ultrasounds and 2 NSTs every week at 32 weeks until we delivered. But, I always think of Landon and, what life would be like if he was still here.
There's still a part of us that always wants to go back. I think when you lose a child, you always say, what if? What if we would have asked? What if we would have asked more questions? What if we would have had more time? What if we would have had a different doctor? What if there's signs during the pregnancy that we should have been looking for? And those are things, when you talk about our extended family, that we ask each other, but we don't often talk to our extended family about. I think it's something they know we have to deal with, but not something they necessarily are ready to deal with or want to get in the details that much. Our family's been very supportive. They walked with us today to honor Landon and the Star Legacy Walk. But I think my biggest fear as we go through year after year now, we're not even 2 years past losing him, is not hearing his name. Sometimes I feel like people might be 2 steps farther than we are in getting over it. But there is no getting over it. It's something we need to live with the rest of our lives. And it's just some days are easier than others. And I think my biggest fear is, are we honoring him enough? Because he existed. He was a little boy. He was far enough along in the pregnancy that he could have lived by himself. He was viable. And to just know that he was here on earth and that he meant something to a lot of people is something that I want to keep trying to find ways to do. But I think we're still so early in losing him that I haven't found what that is yet. I don't know what we're going to do in 10 years to honor him, or 20 or 30. Right now I think it's still just early enough that we're trying to get through. Some days it's just getting through the day. But as we said earlier, we were fortunate to have another baby. We did welcome another son, Lucas, into the world this last May. When we found out it was another boy, it was all mixed emotions. We, at her 20-week ultrasound, they knew what we had gone through, and she looked and the lady said, "Do you want to know what you're having?" And I honestly didn't know what to say, because I didn't know if it would make me feel better or worse. And I think we just said, let's tell us. And she said, she held Carrie's hand and she said, what baby did you lose last year? And we said, a little boy. And she took Carrie's hand and she said, well, you're having another boy. You're going to get another chance. And having another boy, go ahead.
It doesn't make it easier. You still, miss the child you lost.
But I will say, having Lucas is that joy that you wanted to have with Landon, and your heart is full of joy having another baby and a healthy baby, and not having to go through that tragedy again. But when you get home with your next child, you realize that it's not okay. There's still something huge that's missing that should be there. So yeah, I don't.
One thing that I wish that would change is that there's this misconception that after 12 weeks, you make that 12-week mark with your pregnancy, that everything will be fine. You know, you just have to make it to the finish line, to the 40 weeks. And that is not the case. There are so many babies that don't get to the 40 weeks. And including myself, I was so naive that there's nothing good, nothing will happen. Once I got past that 12-week mark, nothing will happen. I remember working with a gentleman, and he could obviously tell, that I was pregnant, and he had asked, when are you due? And I had said in May, and he made some comment, I can't exactly remember what he said, but it's basically, don't count your chickens before they hatch. And I just thought, oh, nothing's going to happen. I'm perfectly fine. I'm being monitored. I'm going to have weekly ultrasounds. But, it happened to me, and I just want people to realize that it can happen to anybody, and you need to advocate for your baby. You need to ask questions because you don't want it to be you. It will happen to somebody, but don't let it be you. And so ask those questions. Demand care. You don't want the doctor to make choices that are going to affect your life for the rest of your life. So be involved in your care and your baby's care.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's one thing that, I'm hoping that his legacy will be that we can help other mothers and let them know that, you deserve to know what is happening with your baby.
Mm-hmm. And the other thing I would say is, she said mothers, but fathers. When you lose a child, whether after pregnancy or during pregnancy, rightfully so, there's a lot of attention that's given to the mother because she's physically healing as well as emotionally healing. But the dads are also a silent victim. I think a lot of the men they're supposed to be strong, and a lot of men, even historically, have been, silent on these issues and have not felt like they needed to be very vocal and emotional. But I would say it is right, and it is okay, and it is acceptable for a father to show emotion and to be to want help and to ask people to be around them. Losing the dad, you don't have to be the hero. You're in pain and you're suffering as much as the mother is. And it's okay to ask for help from coworkers and friends and family. And dads also need to know that they're not going through this alone, and that if the more people are probably also have gone through something similar.
And you have to realize that, we just didn't lose a son. Our daughter lost a brother. Our parents lost a grandson. Our siblings lost a nephew, and our nieces and nephews lost a cousin. So it's not just us that were impacted, it's many, many people.
I think that's and I would just say around this whole issue that the society, I hope that someday society changes, that these babies are recognized and remembered more than they have been in the past, because I do think that it has a greater impact and a greater toll than a family traditionally is spoken about, and they need to be remembered, and they have a voice, and that it's okay, even though it's painful. I know for Landon's sake, we will continue to speak his name, and we will continue to make our friends and families and coworkers remember who he was.
Because he is our son.
Yep.
And we love him, and we miss him, and we just hope that he is proud of us.